does failing forward mean? Failing forward is one of those phrases we hear all the time. But at this point, it has reached the status of really losing its meaning. This is one of those statements that is at the top of all of the mindset gurus list. But what does it actually mean? Is it really possible to always fail forward? Is failure always a bad thing? I saw this quote and it said, "People who avoid failure also avoid success." Hey, mom. So, welcome to the Life Unboxed podcast, where we talk about all things momtrepreneur, from raising your kids to running a business, and the most important, keeping your sanity. I am Jodie, the mom, a successful virtual assistant and homeschool mom of six for almost 10 years now. If you want the flexibility and freedom that comes from working from home and homeschooling, then you are in the right place. Be sure to visit lifeunboxed.blog for everything momtrepreneur. Now, let's get into this week's topic. What does failing forward mean when failing is inevitable? There are so many hard feelings that surround failure, especially if you are a perfectionist. Anyone else with me? But here's the thing about failure, it is inevitable. How we respond to it and what we do with it shows who we really are. And this is probably the best answer to what does failing forward mean. How do we let failure change us for the better? Is failure an excuse or a teacher? Failure is okay, necessary, and unavoidable. It is not the end of the world, although it may feel like it in the moment. Failure doesn't need to be shameful either. When Coke launched New Coke in 1985, it was a complete disaster. People rebelled against the change, even going so far as to publicly dump it down Seattle sewers. And this was a shock because Coke did all the right things. They product tested it and they had a secure place in American lives. Everything pointed to success. No one expected this outrage. After 77 days, the previous version of Coke was brought back. Was this a dismal failure, or is this the perfect example of what does it mean to fail forward? In hindsight, all the historians see that it was a great move because Coke sales soared when they returned to Classic Coke. But at the time, it seemed like a terrible failure, like lose your job failure. So for us, we can either accept our failures and allow them to teach us or use them as an excuse for never growing or changing. How do you fail forward when bad things happen? There are things that we experience that are completely out of our control. And all the cliched statements, just fail forward or what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, aren't helpful. They lack substance. And really, can anyone tell exactly how to fail forward or get stronger when circumstances are so devastating you never really recover? What would you think if I told you this isn't a true statement? That it has been scientifically debunked. Would you breathe a sigh of relief because your difficult circumstances haven't made you stronger? What would you do if you were given permission to recognize that there have been hard things in your life that beat you down? Learning from experience is understanding that those circumstances don't need to make you stronger, but you just need to realize it is time to get back up. As moms, like sometimes we just need those hard places validated. You don't have to think positively about every crappy situation. Sometimes you need time to bring a different outlook and you can't rush the process. I know the nice advice people offer: think positively, have a growth mindset, creates positive self talk. But what if you can't? What if you just aren't at that place? It is okay. You don't have to be. All right. So some endings should happen. I know many well meaning people want to encourage you to never give up. But what about times when don't give up is just the wrong advice? Sometimes failing means that you need to end something that is not working so you can redirect your resources. We have limited resources: time, money, energy, all those things. And we need to put these resources into something else. So there are some endings that are necessary. In the moment, it can feel like total and complete failure, but it is what you need to propel you to the next step. So, what we often see as failure is success in the waiting. So, I'm not going to leave you hanging with all of these ideas. Let's talk about 3 steps required to fail forward, because failure is hard. It can knock you down, but it doesn't have to knock you out. It is inevitable that you will encounter failure. It is your choice whether it will move you forward or stop you in your tracks. If you are ready to fail forward, then apply these 3 steps. Number one, recognize the process. Each time we fail, it should change us. There are always lessons learned from every failure. So recognize the process in your life and apply the lessons learned to your next steps. Recognize where you are at. So acknowledge your emotions and start to process your feelings and make a list of your next steps. It is okay to acknowledge you're in a hard place, that you are disappointed with how things turned out, but don't stay in that place. Let this moment teach you the lesson you need to learn. And number two, very important: failure is not final. Failure doesn't determine your success. In the moment, it may feel like there's nothing more left, but failure is not final. Remember that. So, have you heard of the game Lexico or crisscross words? Probably not. But have you heard of the game Scrabble? So, Lexico and crisscross words were the early versions of Scrabble that were rejected by Martin Brothers and Milton Bradley. In 1949, the game was purchased by James Brunot. I think that's how you say his name. And he immediately lost money on it. Then in 1952, it all changed. An executive at Macy's discovered the game and suddenly they couldn't keep up with demand. In 1953, they sold 800,000 games, and still couldn't keep up with demand. So remember, failure is not final. Number three, it is the next step to success. See failure as making room for something else. We have limited time and energy. Do you want to keep spending your time and energy on something that isn't working? Or is it time to shift gears to something else? Failure is just the next step to success. Take everything that you've learned and apply it to your next endeavor. Mom, failing forward means you take all the lessons learned and move forward. Yes, failure is painful and you will need to process the emotions. But remember, it is not final. So, what are some lessons you've learned from failure? I am so glad you joined me today. If you want to help spread the word, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Remember to check out the Life Unboxed store for all of your Mom Boss merch, and you can support the show with coffee. Visit Ko-fi, that's ko-fi.com/Life Unboxed blog to buy this tired mama a cup of joe. And be sure to follow on social media and check out lifeunboxed.blog. And I will see you in the next show.